Hey you guys, what's up? It's Rocketos54 here, and welcome to the 11th episode of Criterion Roulette. Now I am not in the usual location for Criterion Roulette. I mean, I'm still in my house, but normally I do it in that room over there, which is my space. But I'm doing it in the living room this time because I'm home alone. I got the bigger TV all to myself, so I figured I might as well start this episode in here while I got the opportunity. And now, if you've never seen an episode of Criterion Roulette before, what it is I choose 3 films in the Criterion collection to watch, one that I choose myself, one that a friend chooses for me, and then I put all the spine numbers into a random number generator and pick that one and watch that. Now, this episode is actually going to be 4 films, for a specific reason, because my friend John has been recommending the film Persona to me. I think like the last, I think he's recommended to me once before, or possibly even twice before. And I think I was actually under the impression that Persona just on its own was out of print, and that you could only get it in the Ingmar Bergman box set. It was either that or Amazon was just sold out of it and I didn't think they were going to get any more, but they eventually did, and I did get it for this episode, so that one's going to be at the very end of the episode. So yeah, finally I'm getting around to Persona, because I think that was actually his original pick for when he recommended me Belle de Jour, when I think it was when I did the friendship episode of Criterion Roulette. But let's get started with this episode. So I'm going to be starting off this episode with the film that I chose for myself, and that is Come and See, released in 1985, directed by Elem Klimov. I've heard about this film for a couple years now. I hear it's one of the greatest as well as most brutal war films ever made. I really hope this doesn't depress or disturb me too much, but either way, I've heard this is a really great movie, and I've actually seen Elem Klimov's wife's film, The Ascent, in a previous Criterion Roulette episode, so now I'm finally getting around to watching his. This is a Russian film. It says it's spoken in Russian, Belarusian, and German. Kind of a long one. It's 2 hours, 22 minutes, but I am excited to check this out. I really hope that it's good. But yeah, so we're gonna open this up, see what's inside, then pop it in and see how it is. Alright, so here's a look at the Criterion itself. There's the front, the spine, and the back. Kind of loaded with special features this time around, too. And then there's the disc design and the booklet. It's just plain dark green on the back, too. And I actually flipped through this, and there's no images from the movie throughout this booklet, which is kind of rare. Normally they have a few images put into the booklet that take up a full page, but I guess not this time. But yeah, I'm excited to watch this, so yeah, let's pop it in and see how it is. Alright you guys, so I just finished watching Come and See, and this is definitely a great movie, but man, this thing is disturbing and depressing as hell. I'm gonna need to watch some happy stuff after I finish filming this, because man, is this movie so bleak. It's great though. I think the actor's name, Alexei Kravchenko, quite possibly the greatest teenage performance of all time. He is phenomenal in this movie. I'm basically copying what it says on the back here, but I don't care. An absolutely searing portrait of anguish is what he portrays in this movie. The direction is freaking amazing. Elem Klimov does not let you breathe, even really for 1 second, it feels like. This whole thing, just all throughout, it just feels so hopeless. And, the camera work and cinematography is so instrumental in creating that. The use of fog in this movie is just astounding at how much it just really creates that sense of bleak hopelessness and just depression all throughout. Another thing that's worth noting is the sound design of this movie. It has so many layers to it, and there's like certain things that you pick up upon because they're like put in like the background, but then it also like just adds to like the level of carnage that's just going on screen. But then there's also like one thing that like I really really like that happens kind of closer to the beginning, where it's what you're hearing is like what the main character is hearing, and it's done incredibly well. You know, this is really just such an impressive film. Like, I really think that I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 for right now. I feel like I have great confidence that this is going to go up to a 5 in the future, probably after a second watch. Like, I did watch this kind of in 2 separate viewing sessions, I will say. Maybe if I watched it all in one, it might have hit a little harder, but, you know, regardless, this, you know, I'm finding it hard to recommend it just because it's so depressing, but, like, if you guys want to see an example of some phenomenal filmmaking, look no further. Watch this movie. It is incredibly great. I'm looking forward to seeing to watching the special features. I know that they have an archival interview from 2001 with Elem Klimov on here, and they actually have an interview with Alexei Kravchenko on here. I'm really excited to see that because he was only 16 when this movie came out, and he looks a lot younger than he actually is in this film. Because, like, throughout the whole thing, I'm thinking, like, how old is this guy? Like, he looks like he's, like, 11, but then in one part you see, because, you know, like, the movie takes place over like a decent period of time, and you start to see facial hair on him, and so I'm like, how old is he really? But the actor, I know for a fact, was 16. I don't know how old what's his name again, Flyora, I don't know how old he was supposed to be in the movie, but regardless, fantastic movie. Cannot recommend this enough. I mean, kind of, as I said, it's very depressing, but it's definitely so worth the watch if you can handle it. But yeah, really great movie. So hopefully I will see you guys soon when I do the next one. I probably won't do the next film tomorrow, but I'll see how I feel. But yeah, so see you guys in a bit when I decide to do the second film for this episode. Alright, you guys, so it is now a couple days after I watched Come and See, and I'm going to be moving on with the second film for this episode of Criterion Roulette. This is the one that my friend Nathan chose for me, and that is Godzilla, released in 1954, directed by, what's his name again? Ishiro Honda. I'm a little embarrassed to admit, the only Godzilla movie I've ever seen is Godzilla vs. Kong. I literally have not seen any of the others. So, yeah, you know, I know that this is like, to say this is a classic is probably the understatement of the century, because, I mean, this was incredibly influential in the monster movies to come. And one thing that's really cool about this Criterion is it actually includes Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is it says Terry Morse's 1956 reworking of the original. So I'm going to be curious to see how these two end up lining up. And I think Ishiro Honda, because I looked on the Letterboxd page, I'm pretty sure Ishiro Honda like co-directed it with him. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so as I said, never seen this before. I've only seen Godzilla vs. Kong, which I feel like is probably not an accurate representation of the monster, but I'm excited to check this out. You know, as I said, never seen a full Godzilla film before, so hopefully this will be pretty good. It is a Japanese film from the 1950s, so I'm going to then throw you over to Nathan, who's going to give a brief explanation as to why he chose this for the episode. We're going to take a look inside and then pop it in and see how it is.
Hi, okay, so Godzilla, recommended this one to you. Yeah, great movie. So, the Godzilla films have kind of, to me at least, it's become more about just the giant monster action, and that's really it. But what I love about the original film is that it really is more of a drama. And it takes its human characters very seriously, and it really is the center. Godzilla is more or less a looming threat rather than a consistent character in the movie, which is something that I really appreciated about the original. And the messages and themes of it, I think, are very interesting and handled in a good way. If at all, sometimes it's a little on the nose. There's one specific scene where a character blatantly just says this is the point of the movie, and this is the point of like the symbolism in it, which is kind of annoying, but that just is what it is, and I understand the director probably wanted to add just that final little touch, but really, other than that, this is a very expertly made film. It's very well directed, and the sequences of Godzilla storming Tokyo are just incredibly well done, and they just look great. A lot of it's kept to a consistent wide, and the way they did the sequences, a lot of it was either with stop motion or I believe stop motion, but I know a lot of it was just like practical effects. Obviously, back in the 50s, wasn't a lot of CG, and if it was, it wasn't like as big as like movies like even Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is fun, but it's definitely just not as thought provoking or memorable as the original Godzilla. I remember on my first watch, I was just like blown away by how much I was enthralled by the drama of the film rather than the Godzilla stuff, which is still really good. So, anyways, yeah. Hope you enjoy this one. It's one of my favorite monster movies. Probably my favorite monster movie, actually. It's a great movie. All right. I don't have a good way to end this, so bye.
All right, thank you, Nathan, for that explanation. So this is a really awesome Criterion package. So like this is, this is like a boxed one. So you got the front here, there's a spine here, and it's like kind of like a bluish color on the first spine here, and then on the other side looks like that. And then there is the back, but then you guys gotta see what it looks like on the inside. Like this is so great. So, that's the image right there. And then on the other side, and then you open this up, and there is the book, which is actually thinner than I would have expected a normal Criterion booklet to be. A lot of the ones I've had recently have been very thick, but there's the booklet there, got some nice imagery on there. And then there's the disc, and then look at this. When you open this up, it's like a pop-up. Like, that looks so cool. I really, really like that. And then I actually didn't take the disc out to look at what's behind it, but man, look at how cool that looks. As I said, I've never seen this before. That's kind of it's kind of doesn't even need to be said in a Criterion Roulette, because the whole point of this is that I watch films I've never seen before. But, I'm thinking if that's what this looks like, I feel like I'm going to be in for a treat here. But, yeah, so I am really, really excited to watch this. So let's pop it in and see how it is. Alright, you guys, so I just finished watching Godzilla, and I didn't really like it a whole lot. I just couldn't really get into the story. Honestly, I was expecting a lot more of Godzilla in this Godzilla movie. Now, I know in the clip that Nathan sent over that he did say that, it's a lot more, like, character driven and, like, focus on like the drama aspect of it, and that part I just couldn't get into for some reason. Like, I thought that the acting was good, the direction was good. There was a couple parts where the direction I thought was kind of bad, but for the most part the direction was good, and the visual effects are incredible, especially for the time. And I can't really like knock this too hard, because we would not have monster movies today without this. Like this, I almost feel like saying like this was the first monster movie. I don't know. This was 1954. I don't really know how many more monster movies there were at the time, but I don't know. I feel like this was like the first big one, if I'm not mistaken. I could be totally wrong, but yeah, this Criterion also has Godzilla King of the Monsters, the one from 1956, which was directed by Terry Morse. And according to Letterboxd, I think Ishiro Honda actually co-directed that with him, but maybe that could just be a bit of false information. But, I am excited to see what the American version of this is like, because it says Terry Morse's 1956 reworking of the original. So I'm wondering, like, is it maybe like a shot-for-shot American remake, or is it like very similar but has like a lot of like different things about it? I don't know. I'm thinking, like, is this gonna be like what Well, I was gonna say like Michael Haneke's Funny Games, because he did the original in 1997, which was a German movie, and then in like 10 years later he did an American remake, which I hear from everybody is literally the exact same movie. So I'm thinking, is that what Godzilla King of the Monsters is to this? I have no idea, but I am excited to see how it turns out. Yeah, as I said, I just couldn't really get into the story very much, unfortunately. I would probably give this a 2.5 out of 5. Not one I liked a whole lot, but it's undoubtedly a pretty well-made movie. Acting and directing's good, and the visual effects are incredibly groundbreaking. But yeah, so that is the second film for this episode of Criterion Roulette. I will see you guys soon. I probably won't watch the third film tomorrow, but yeah, I will be watching the third one soon, so I will see you guys in just a second. Alright, you guys, so it is now a couple days later, and it is time for the third film in this episode of Criterion Roulette. This is the Random Spine #1. And it is a film that I had never even heard of before, until I drew the spine number for it. And that is Black Narcissus, released in 1947, directed by Michael Powell and Emeric Pressburger. As I said, never heard of this until I was choosing the titles for this episode. It sounds pretty interesting, though. It says, this explosive film about the conflict between the spirit and the flesh is the epitome of the sensuous style of Michael Powell and Emeric Pressburger. A group of nuns, played by some of Britain's finest actresses, including Deborah Kerr, Kathleen Byron, and Flora Robson, struggle to establish a convent in the Himalayas. While isolation, extreme weather, altitude, and culture clashes all conspire to drive the well-intentioned missionaries mad. And it turns out this won both of the Oscars it was nominated for cinematography and production design. So yeah, this sounds pretty interesting. Hopefully it'll be pretty good, but yeah, we're gonna take a look inside, then pop it in and see how it is.
All right, so here is the front, and the spine, and the back. And then on the inside, there's the disc, and then the booklet right here. I really like, how it has like I really just like how it has the title on like the front and then the back, but also how like, I guess I was kind of wrong. At first I thought the color of the, text on both of the words, I thought it was switched when I flipped it over, but I guess it wasn't. But it still looks really cool. Like, I really like how it looks, especially on the back here. And then the background artwork looks really cool. Well, the background image, I mean, looks really, really nice. But yeah, so I'm excited to watch this. Let's pop it in and see how it is.
Alright, you guys, so I just finished watching Black Narcissus, and I would have to say it was a pretty good movie overall. It was, I started it, last night, and I got about the first half hour of it watched, but then I started to feel super, super tired, so I went to bed early and just decided to finish the rest of it today. So, I did just that, and, it was a good movie overall. I would say that, it definitely deserved both of the Oscars it won for art direction and cinematography, because it looks amazing. Like, this, like, Technicolor look that, like, these really old films have, like this and The Wizard of Oz are the two main ones that come to mind, looks really, really, really nice. And the art direction was really, really good as well. And, stylistically, this actually reminded me a lot of Pasolini's Trilogy of Life, especially the Decameron. It does take a bit before I think it really, like, gets going. Like, maybe it was, like, I feel like maybe it might have been a bit too long. It was an hour and 41 minutes. I think it could have had probably, like, 10 minutes of it taken off. I think it took a little bit too long to get going. But once it finds its footing, it definitely becomes an entertaining and engaging film. The acting was pretty good across the board. It was a little bit confused in terms of its, like, in terms of its genre, which I find that a lot of, like, real classic films are, like, like, there was at times when there was, like, these two characters. It doesn't happen as much toward the second half, but I'd say definitely in the first half, like two characters that almost seemed like a bit of like comic relief at points. Even though this is like a drama, and then in the last like 20 minutes, there's like elements of horror in it as well. But yeah, I would say, as I said, good movie overall. I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's entertaining, it's well made, but it doesn't do enough to push it into the above average category, unfortunately. But I would say it is worth a watch. It is a very visually pleasing film. As I said, well-deserved Oscar wins for both of the ones it was nominated for. But yeah, so now I will be throwing you over to when I watched Persona, because I actually watched Persona. It is November 8th, as I am recording this, and I actually watched Persona back on September 24th was when I watched Persona, because I anticipated Persona's Criterion to arrive to my house a hell of a lot later than it did, and I wasn't entirely sure, like, how I was going to incorporate Persona into the Criterion Roulette, because I wanted to incorporate it in some way. So I will now throw you over for when I watch the fourth and final film for this episode, which is Persona. Alright guys, so we have now reached the fourth and final film for this episode. There is a bonus film for this episode because, if you remember in the last episode, my friend John recommended the film The Night of the Hunter, and that was actually not his original pick for that episode. Basically, his original pick for that episode was Persona, released in 1966, directed by Ingmar Bergman. And yeah, I was supposed to do this one in the last episode, but it wasn't in stock on Amazon when I ordered it, and they said, like, we'll ship it to you when we get it in stock. And it was like more than 2 weeks after I ordered it when it finally shipped. And like this was like a little bit before that when I asked John if he could just pick a different one for the episode so I could get it out on time. But I promised him that I would still watch this one and put it in an episode once it came in, and it did come in like a few days ago as of recording this. Yeah, so this part of the Criterion Roulette is filmed probably like a month before anything else from this episode has been filmed. But so yeah, now I am going to throw you over to John, who is going to give a brief explanation as to why he picked this film, and then we're gonna take a look inside and then pop it in and see how it is.
Hey Liam, what's up? Thanks for asking me to choose the Criterion for this episode of Criterion Roulette. Man, oh man, Persona. Whew. Well, I can tell you that it is my favorite film by the director Ingmar Bergman, who is a Swedish director. The film definitely marks a turning point in his career. There kind of is sort of a before and after Persona sort of element in his filmography timeline. It's also a very, I don't know, interesting is probably one way of describing it. It's really hard for me to know how to say much about these films without giving away, but it is definitely one that leaves a strong impression on you, and one that multiple watches will be rewarding with, and that's probably all I can say about it. It's my favorite film by Bergman, and I really hope you enjoy it, so yeah.
All right, John, thank you very much for that explanation. So this is what it looks like. There's the front, and then the spine, and the back. And there's the disc. And then this might be the thickest booklet that's ever been in just like a regular case Criterion, because like look at that. Like this thing is so thick, because when I like got this in like when I first got this a few days ago, like when it was delivered, I picked it up and I thought there was like 2 discs in here because of like how heavy it was, but no, it's just because of this very, very thick book. I know according to the special features on the back, it says there's a lot of stuff in the book. It says an essay, an excerpt from a book, and an excerpted interview, so a lot to read there. And then there's the disc, and behind it there's the image. One thing I've actually heard about this, if my memory serves me correctly, I've heard that this film is the one Ingmar Bergman film that everybody recommends that you don't start with, but this is actually my first film from Ingmar Bergman. But yeah, I'm excited to check this out. I've never seen a film from Ingmar Bergman before, but I know that he's a very well-loved director, and I'm excited to see what he's all about. So let's pop this in and see how it is. Yep, that was about a month and a half ago when I finally watched Persona, and the reason why I didn't include a clip of me back when I watched it in September explaining what my thoughts were, it was because I literally had no words to describe just how amazingly perfect this movie is. This film, this work of art impacted me in ways I cannot even begin to think of describing. Not since watching Spring Breakers for the first time 6 years ago has a film impacted me on a level that this did. Like, I don't even, I don't really fully understand this, like, at all, but it just the way everything is presented and like everything with the characters, the story, the writing, the directing, just how it all hits you is so hard hitting. And it feels like it feels like it just spoke to me in a way that I just haven't seen many films do. It's just I'm just like, I was just so speechless. Like, literally, I don't think I said like a word for, I want to say like at least 10 whole minutes, maybe even 20 after this was done. I was just blown away by how good this film was. I literally just could not think of anything to say, and I wanted to give it some time. And then when I actually remembered and could actually, like, describe my thoughts on it, I kept procrastinating and pushing it off, but now I'm finally here talking to you about my thoughts on it. So, needless to say, this film gets a perfect 5 out of 5, so congratulations to John for recommending the first film to get a 5 out of 5 in this series. This is an absolutely phenomenal film that I think is essential viewing for any cinephile. This is now one of my favorites of all time. This movie's just amazing. Like, seriously, I can't, like, my words can't do this movie justice because, like, I can't get into it without, like, ruining anything. And even if I like described more, like, I wouldn't really be able to tell you exactly what this is. You just have to go and watch it for yourself. It's just so damn good. Like, it's good in a way that you can't describe in words. It's only through feeling. Guys, please go watch Persona. Like, seriously, watch this movie. You will not regret it. But yeah, so that is the end of the 11th episode of Criterion Roulette. This was a pretty good one overall. I mean, you know, Godzilla I didn't really like a whole lot, but I mean, Come and See and Persona definitely made up for it. Two amazing, amazing films. I probably will not do another Criterion Roulette at least for another month because Christmas is coming next month, and then my birthday's coming up the month after that, so I might not even do another one until, like, possibly February. But who knows? I mean, the Criterion sale for Barnes & Noble is going on for the whole rest of this month, so I might be able to get some Criterions from Unobstructed View, but I don't know if they follow in the same sales as Barnes & Noble. I don't quite remember, but anyway, guys, that will be it for this video. Subscribe for more content. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and remember, you guys, whenever setting up convents in places you really shouldn't, say no to drugs.